February. The speakers will be myself and Daniel, you want to wave? He's a local high school student, and we're going to be talking about protecting dark skies and working in Loveland for better quality lighting. So that will be the third Friday of the month in February. I also have to put out the pitch that because we are an all-volunteer organization, a nonprofit, we are supported by donations and folks like you. So we know that times are tight, the economy is not the best, and for those who have the funds to donate, we greatly appreciate it. For folks who don't, we completely understand, and like I mentioned earlier, we always welcome donations of time and support. We have a lot of fun volunteering here together.
There are donation boxes at the back on each.
Okay, there are donation boxes at the back corner. Micah is holding up one back there.
Another one at the other side.
And there's another one on the other side. So if you have the means to do so, we greatly appreciate your support. It goes not only for the observatory, but for all the education programs that we provide. We've done workshops for teachers, and we've had community colleges. We have Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops come and do their astronomy badges, and we are open almost every night of the year. You can go to our website, starkids.org, and sign up for a special evening for your own group if you're interested in doing that. And if you have questions, feel free to ask one of the volunteers who are here tonight. Can you think of anything else that I missed for announcements?
No.
T-shirts, yes.
Oh, yeah.
At the observatory, we have T-shirts, we have mugs with our logos, we have bookmarks, all kinds of things for which we gratefully accept donations. We have the Galileo Scope telescope. If you yourself or someone you know would enjoy a telescope kit, it's a very high quality kit for the price. And of course, we also have Bryan White's book. I'm not sure where that is.
Brian's got his stock that he's selling tonight.
And he is the author of a book that includes some of the images that you're going to see here tonight, if you'd like to have that to take home with you also.
I'll do a book signing afterwards.
And there will be a book signing afterwards. So that's all that I can think of.
We have the telescope up and running for anybody that would like to look at the sky afterwards.
Right. For those of you who haven't already been over at the observatory, we do have it open after the show tonight. You're invited to come over and have a look through our 18-inch telescope, and you'll also be able to get a chance to see our new 24-inch telescope that we're still getting set up and running. That's a wonderful donation to the observatory. It's a historic telescope that was part of the Apollo program to study the moon in preparation for the astronauts landing on the moon. It had been at Mount Wilson Observatory, and after retiring from Mount Wilson, we're very fortunate that it came here as a new home. So that's all the news. Are there any questions from the audience before we start up the show? We want every third Friday. Doors open at 7 and the speaker at 7:30.
You can also set something up for your private group too.
Yes, you can set up a special night just for your own group, and that's on our website at www.starkids.org. Does everyone have 3D glasses?
No.
Okay, everybody's been waiting for those, so I think Brian, now's the time to...
Just be very careful, they're easily broken, and they do not collapse, so.
Yeah, the side earpieces do not fold.
Leave them with us.
So do be careful with them. Brian kindly provides them, but we don't want to break them.
Leave them with us at the...
Right, and after the show, please leave the 3D glasses with us so that Brian can take it with him for the next show.
Gentlemen, would you?
Anything else, Brian?
I'll go ahead and do over here.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here tonight and enjoy the show.
Thanks, Andrea. Okay, I'm just going to do just a couple minute self-introduction. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. I heard one no. Okay, I'll speak up a little bit. Okay, I think this is my 9th year coming here, and I think I first started giving 3D presentations here at Berthoud. So initially I used slides, and about 4 years ago I converted my show to digital, which is a vast improvement on slides. But just to tell you a little bit about my background and what you're going to be seeing today. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and in the summer of 1957, my dad decided to buy a farm out in a little town called Ortonville, Michigan. And he worked at Ford Motor Company, but it's something that was his thing he always wanted to do. So we moved to this farm, and in 1957, we were blessed with what's called a great comet. A great comet was a naked eye visible comet, and it was in June of 1957. I was 6 years old, and I walked outside one night, and over the western horizon there was an object I didn't know what it was, so I ran in and got my dad, and he came out and he said, "My gosh, that's a comet." And it had just been discovered the day before. It hadn't even hit the newspapers yet. It was unusual. Most comets are discovered in the outer solar system. This one came around the backside of the sun and appeared in the night sky. It was a very beautiful comet, Comet Mercos. And got me interested in astronomy. I started studying it, started taking pictures when Halley's Comet came around. And my favorite images not only had the comet, but also had the foreground objects. It made it much more interesting. And so in 1996, two great comets were discovered, Hyakutake and Hale-Bopp. So I planned a trip around the country to shoot images of both Hyakutake, which was in 1996, and then 1997, the great comet Hale-Bopp came around. And I took off about 5 weeks from work, traveled all over the country, and took about 2,000 3D images of Hale-Bopp. And so the first very short show you'll see tonight are some of those images when I first started taking 3D astrophotography. And that's only about 5-6 minutes long. But after that is the main show is about 10 years ago I started going to a place called Yellowknife. It's the capital of the Northwest Territory of Canada. And what's neat about Yellowknife, it sits underneath what's called the Aurora Oval. So virtually every night the Aurora Borealis is in the sky. I've been up there 5 times in the last 10 years, and I have over 4,000 images of the Aurora in 3D. Don't worry, you won't see all 4,000. The show will primarily be on the Aurora Borealis. It's about a half hour long. And then I have 3 short shows. One on Yellowstone, then Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, and then Alpine Flowers I took a couple of years ago in Colorado and South Park. So the whole program takes about 50 minutes. I play what's called space music, composed and played by a friend of mine, John Seri, who basically invented space music about 30 years ago, and he does a lot of work for NASA and movies and so forth. And then I narrate over the music, so it takes about 50 minutes, and then afterwards I'll be glad to answer any questions for a couple of minutes. And then in case people have come in since after that, this is my 3D book on the Aurora Borealis called Prelude Lake, and it got pretty good reviews and Shutterbug and Sky Telescope and so forth. It's got 75 3D images, a 3D viewer, and a CD of the music that you're going to be hearing. And I'll be selling it tonight. Barnes & Noble sells for $65. I'm selling copies for $20 tonight. So, do you have any questions before we begin? All right.
Bryan, I do have a question on the Aurora. If you are on Yellowknife and you see the Aurora up, straight above, how far from Yellowknife you can be and still see that Aurora?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell because if it's straight above in Yellowknife, you might be able to see it maybe 100 miles or a couple hundred miles south of that. You'd see it on the horizon. But yeah, it's 24/7. It's the oval is right over Yellowknife, and so it's the best place in the world to see it. Yes, sir.
One more. I see pictures of the aurora, and I see it shimmering and moving and doing all that stuff. Is that time lapse, or does it really?
Oh, it really moves. Sometimes it moves so fast you can hardly see it.
Okay.
Other times it's very slow. Other times, usually during what you're describing is called an aurora storm, a substorm, and I've seen plenty of those, and there's not a technology to really photograph it adequately. I've seen things you just can't photograph.
Okay. So it does move.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Very quickly. Okay, let me get situated here. All right. All right, you want to hit the lights for me?
Job.
This is comet Hyakutake. I took this at the night of closest approach to the Earth, and it had an incredible tail. This was taken in North Florida, and this night Venus was inside the Pleiades, and there was a lunar eclipse, and we had a comet in the sky, comet Hyakutake there to the right. A couple of weeks later, Venus had moved outside of the Pleiades, and the comet had about a 30-degree tail. This is at the Winter Star Party in Florida. That was comet Hale-Bopp. You could see it in the horizon, and it became naked eye. And about two months later, this was in March of 1997 at the Grand Canyon. And it was about 10 degrees, but I was the only one up looking at the comet over Grand Canyon. This is at the Grand Canyon. And the light coming through the trees there is the moon. Then I went behind Meteor Crater in Arizona. And when the sun started rising, a rocket came up from White Sands and blew up, and it left this incredible cloud. Just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And this was at Monument Valley in Utah. Taken about 3 o'clock in the morning. The comet rose at about 2:30. And this was at Zion in Utah. This is at Bryce Canyon. You can see the lights on I-70 at the bottom of the pass there, but all the illumination is by moonlight. And the comet is in the sky. This is at Molasse Pass in southwest Colorado, between Silverton and Durango. And about 2:30 in the morning, the comet rose over the mountains. And this is Loveland Pass again. It's a spectacular comet. It was intrinsically the brightest comet in 1,000 years. It was literally on the other side of the solar system from us. It was 100 million miles away. If this had been as close as Hyakutake, it would have been a naked eye comet during the day. This is in North Carolina, a place called Water Rock Knob. And this is right after sunset. It went from a morning comet to an evening comet, and within a few minutes it looked like this. I sold this image to Mattel Viewmaster. They did a series with the Discovery Channel, and this is the only image they've ever purchased from outside the company in 60 years. This is the next night. This is exactly what it looked like if you were standing there. Clingman's Dome, North Carolina, right after sunset. You can see my 8-inch newscast screen in the front there. This was taken with a 180 millimeter telephoto lens. This is the top of Water Rock Knob, overlooking Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. It's called a ghost image. It's a beautiful sight. Now I'm back down in Florida. This is real close to the Georgia line. The white line is an airliner coming into Jacksonville Airport, and the white on the left is the new moon. That's hanging moss there. This is Okefenokee Swamp, extremely dark, and the white glow there is called the zodiacal light. But you'll see the comet set here behind these trees. And notice how the color changes as it starts to set, just like the sun. Georgia, under full moon. And this is a comment I took about a year ago, actually 2 years ago, from, I was in New Mexico at Chaco Canyon, and the object on the top is Saturn. Okay, so that's that show. That's just a quick show to let you see how I started out, and now we're going to go to Yellowknife. Aurora, the Roman goddess of the dawn.
great name for the north wind. The Aurora Borealis. It's also known as the Northern Lights. It begins as a gift from the sun. This is a 3D image of the sun taken by the stereo mission, NASA's stereo mission. They sent up 2 spacecrafts separated by 1 billion miles and took 3D images of the sun. The sun has thousands of magnetic fields. They heat the sun's coronosphere to over 1 million degrees. This breaks atoms down into charged particles. The solar wind blasts these particles towards the Earth. In fact, that's a coronal mass ejection. There's one headed for the Earth as we speak. And there might be aurora tomorrow night. And these charged particles are captured by the Earth's magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field draws these particles into the poles. They slam into the Earth's atoms and they cause them to glow. The polar circle pattern is called the Aurora Oval. Yellowknife sits beneath it. Now let's travel to Yellowknife to observe the amazing Aurora Borealis. Yellowknife Airport. Journey down the Ingram Trail, also known as the Ice Road. What you're seeing there are the taillights from the Ice Road trucks. You might have seen a show called Ice Road Truckers. The first couple of years, this is the first ice road, we're out of Yellowknife. They traveled down the ice road 24 hours a day for about 4 months, resupplying the mining camps further, about 250 miles further north. Part of the ice road is called Ingram Trail, and the public can travel up and down it. And all along there's various parks. So every about 5 miles there's little turnouts along the Ingram Trail here. This is at the end of the Ingram Trail. That's my sister and brother-in-law. And that's Venus setting. It was 42 degrees below zero at the time. but the display was absolutely incredible. As I indicated earlier, I've taken over 4,000 images. No two are the same. It's always different. The bottom of the aurora is about 60 miles above your head, and the curtains can go upwards of 300 miles. And the bright object in the sky is Venus. The sun that just set, the aurora's already in the sky. You know it's going to be a great night. This is a place called Aurora World, who hired me a couple times to come up and give my presentation to the vacationing Japanese. It's right on Prelude Lake, and the bright objects, the red objects are the buses that bring them out, and they keep the buses running all night, otherwise they would freeze. This is an observatory or deck overlooking Prelude Lake. There's about 20 Japanese there taking images of the aurora. They get pretty excited. And that's a warming hut at Aurora World. If it's clear, I typically go in February, March. If it's clear, it's 40 to 50 below. In the summertime, these are all campsites. In the wintertime, it's deserted, so I got it pretty much to myself. So I just walk around and look for places to take pictures, and within a few minutes, it looked like this. All the illumination of the trees is by the aurora. And then it got even brighter. Then I turned down 180 degrees and took the next picture towards Aurora World. It's literally like going to another planet. The cold, you think it's dry in Colorado. You should be up there where it's 50 below and about 8% humidity. But it's just a very surreal environment. The bright object in the middle is Vega, which you're so far north is circumpolar, it never sets. You're only about 150 miles from what's called the tree line, where trees can't even grow. So the trees up there are they're not very tall, very skinny. They actually, many of them bend towards the south, looking for the sun. You can see how they're kind of bending to the left there. There's an extreme example. The aurora can get brighter than a full moon. This is called an arc. Most aurora displays start with an arc, which is just like a line that goes across the sky. And then from the arc, typically, if it's a strong aurora, a curtain will go up. Here's a major display that basically filled the whole sky. I went all the way to the end where then it turns to the left. And I took the next picture. Now watch the aurora, how it changes in a minute. Really fantastic curtain that it had white, yellow, orange, red, and purple. I was doing the book signing down in Colorado Springs, and I always ask people, have you ever seen the aurora? And this gentleman came up to me, and he was a very intense gentleman. And I said, have you ever seen the aurora? He said, yes. He said, from 250 miles up. And I said, from Wyoming? He said, no, from the space shuttle. And he was repairing the Hubble Space Telescope. He was in the cargo bay. And he was obviously concentrating on what he was doing, and all of a sudden they flew through the Aurora Borealis and the whole place turned green. He says the most dramatic experience he's ever had. This night every night you could hear the wolves howling in the distance. This night they seemed particularly close, and all of a sudden I saw this animal running across this frozen lake right at me. And my band was a couple hundred yards away, and I thought, well, this will be interesting. And came right up to me, turned over on his back, and wanted to be petted. It was a husky. You know what a husky looks like at night. I said, good doggy. This is a corona. This is where the aurora is right above your head. And it looks, I don't know, any of you seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it kind of blows that away. It's just an amazing sight. That's another corona. And this is another corona. This was a spectacular corona. You can see the Big Dipper there to the right to give you a sense of scale. This is a spiral. When I was up there, it was during the last solar max, and I was blessed to see many, many spiral structures. NASA, within the last 2 years, has discovered what causes these spirals. If you recall, at the beginning of the show, it had those field lines, magnetic field lines. Well, when the sun occasionally stretches those field lines and they snap, and when they snap, occasionally the field lines start spinning. And when they hit the upper atmosphere, it causes these spiral structures. This is an incredible display. It had curtains and arcs and patches. The Inuits believe that the aurora is the spirits of their dead ancestors, and one kind of showed up there in the sky. Just an incredibly beautiful phenomenon. There's nothing you can even relate it to. In 2006, the first couple of nights it was cloudy. Of course, I go out anyway, and so I took a couple images of the aurora behind the clouds. you were standing there, that's exactly what it looks like. Oh, a heck of a lot colder. I was standing on one of the frozen lakes. I was out there for a little while till the truck started going behind me and the ice was cracking underneath my feet. I decided not to do that anymore. This one happened about 2 o'clock in the morning, started from the northwest, and you can see the arc coming across the sky. Patches look like clouds, but it's actually the aurora. Can you imagine living in that little cabin in the little peninsula? Anytime you can just roll out of bed and go outside and see this in the sky. Called a loop or a lasso. This was a fantastic display about 10 o'clock at night. Started before midnight. The displays typically come from the northeast because of the dynamics of the Aurora Oval. Then after midnight it comes from the northwest. But this display was very, very dramatic. Lots of color to it. You see the constellation Orion to the right there, to give you, again, a sense of scale. The bright object at the very top is Jupiter. Now this is probably one of the most dramatic displays I ever saw. It started about, again, 2 o'clock from the northwest, and these are the actual colors. Just incredibly intense. Now that was the northwest, so I changed my camera to the south and started heading to the south, and it kept getting brighter and brighter. Then it got incredibly bright. Then an airplane twin-engine prop went over, left a contrail that was backlit by the aurora, and it looked like lace draped across the sky. Now, then I looked back to the northwest, this is what it looked like. It was almost like daylight bright. It looked exactly like, then 180 degrees the other opposite direction, this is what it looked like. You can see that contrail still hanging in the sky. Then it started getting all kinds of colors. South, and this is what I saw. It was just an incredible sight. So I recommend in your lifetime, a good life bucket would be to go to Yellowknife and see the amazing Aurora Borealis. image was taken at midnight in Yellowstone at the mid-basin during a full moon. Happened to be the only one there for some reason. It was taken in September. It was about 30 degrees or so. And the reason I went out there is to take a picture of a moon bow. Mid-basin has a huge cauldron of extremely hot water. So the steam, you can see the huge column of steam that thing's putting out. The only thing that was out there with me were the coyotes yipping in the distance. There's the basin there. And if you look in there, you can see an arc. That's what's called a moon bow. That's almost exactly what it looked like when you're standing there. It wasn't real bright, but it was. You could definitely see it. This is during the day. The Old Faithful. But my favorite places are the thermophyletic pools that are about 160 degrees or so. They have what's called extremophiles, different bacteria that can live in extreme environments. And all the different colors are different types of bacteria that live at different temperatures. It looks very inviting, but I wouldn't suggest going in. Different colors, textures, formations are almost unlimited. It's just it's an amazing place for a photographer. And what's neat, right before I went there, all my images of the Aurora were taken with 35 millimeter film. Right before I went to Yellowstone, I got digital cameras, Canon digitals, 35 millimeter, and it was like I was born again. With film, you have to be so careful with every shot. With digital, you can just let your artistic juices flow and just, I was telling you, in 10 years I've taken 4,000 images of the Aurora. In 1 week, I took 4,000 images in Yellowstone. the most active part of the park. This is the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. You don't want to slip here, it's a long ways down. That's the Upper Falls. And this is the Lower Falls. This is Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. This is what it looked like in its prime about 1,000 years ago. This is what it looks like today. It's a totally amazing place. It's the center of the Akwesasne culture. All roads in the southwest lead to Chaco Canyon. And there's, I don't know, probably a dozen communities in Chaco. Just this one here that you're looking at had like 200 rooms in it. Look at how they, that was the second story, and they made a, it wasn't a window, it was a door in the corner of the room that went diagonally. I've never seen such a thing. That's a kiva. It's a very large kiva. They believe it's and they were, most of them were like underground. It's a ceremonial spot. But we have no idea what they did down there. That wood is over 1,000 years old. How thick those walls are. They're 3 to 5 feet thick. Imagine the man hours that went into building these things. And the reason they're so thick, in the summer they'd be cool, in the winter they'd be warm. Just look at the, yeah, this is inconceivable, all handmade, every single stone put into place. Look at how thick that wall is. Look at where the hole is, right where the heart is. Spirals. Don't know what they were doing there. It's weird. keyhole window. Look at how they started filling him in there. Near the end of their civilization, it got pretty nasty, evidently. There's Kiva after Kiva. Big ones, little ones. All roads lead to Chaco Canyon. And this, about 2 years ago, my sister came from Michigan. She's big time into flowers. And we went up to, this is a trail my great uncle laid out for the Park Service. He laid out many of the trails for the Park Service when it was first formed. And all these images were taken over about a 5-hour period. And on this trail, I'll just let you take a look. None of these have been, these are raw images. None of the colors have been altered at all. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to come down and does anybody have any questions about what you saw? Yes. The Rocky place? Oh yeah, there's always a lot of people there. I just try not to photograph. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What is the distance separation between the cameras?
Well, I mount two 35mm cameras on what's called a stereo bar, so I can go anywhere from about 6 to 12 inches, depending upon, you know, the depth of field I want to get and so forth. Yeah. Well, since the very beginning, probably
Repeat the question.
how long have I been doing this? Probably photographing for about 20, 25 years. Been an amateur astronomer for 50. Yes. Yeah, in the summer it doesn't get dark up there. Yeah. Yeah. Well, stay warm, about 5 layers of clothes. And yeah, you have questions? Well, the different atoms make different colors. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How long are the exposures on the Aurora photo?
Typically 30 to 50 seconds. And I use 400 speed film, Provia 400, it's professional grade slide film. And when they develop it, I have to push it to 800. But from now on, I'll just use the digital. Yeah.
So for example, you said there was that most spectacular
Display?
Yeah. So how much time elapsed in like that?
That whole thing, probably about 40 minutes. Yeah. Any other questions? Huh? I don't shoot video. I just shoot stills, but I'm working on some things. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have to wrap a blanket around your photography?
No, the 35mm film at 40 to 50 below, I can shoot for about 20 minutes before it freezes. I've broken 3 rolls of film, trying to get one more image. It gets hard to, I use very basic cameras, Olympus OM2s, manual advance. So as the film gets colder, it gets harder and harder to advance. But you're out there and you want to get one, so it gets to the point where you just kind of go like that to try to get one more image, and then you snap it. So I learned fairly soon not to do that. So I go back into my van and warm it up, and then come back out. Any more? Yes?
When the northern lights appear, like, do they just appear all of a sudden, or do they slowly come?
It does. All the above. Sometimes, one time I was out there until a couple guys came with me from Yellowknife. We stayed out there lit till 11 o'clock. Nothing was going on. He said, 11 o'clock, nothing goes on, I'm going home. At 10:59, all of a sudden the whole sky erupted. You know, it just, and then it can last minutes, it can last all night. You just never know. It's like going fishing, you never know what you're going to catch. Yeah.
Do you ever shut out?
Shut out? Nope. Every night. Some nights are a lot better than others. But yeah, that's the beauty of going to Yellowknife. You know you're going to see it. No question.
Everybody
Any more questions? Yeah.
You're all hands.
Never fall asleep? Nope. Nope. I'm out there at 50 below. You don't typically fall asleep. That kind of keeps your blood circulating. Yeah.
How far south do you think the Aurora will come tomorrow night?
We don't know. It's hard to tell. I saw it last July. We had a little star party out west of Casper. I set up, and unfortunately I had my cameras, and I looked to the north, and there was the Aurora. And it wasn't real spectacular, but it was, you know, kind of wavy, and then it had spikes. It wasn't very colorful. But I took pictures of it, and it was all purple. So with the images, sometimes you can bring out the colors. Sometimes the other way, sometimes it's moving so fast it washes the colors out. Yes, sir.
I've been in Wyoming before, and the whole sky was green, and I was 1,000 miles from anywhere. but I never saw anything going on. And I woke up all my companions, my fishing buddies, and woke them up and went, "You gotta see this."
Yeah.
Did I see it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
All right.
typically green color.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
but
all
I've
green.
seen
It was
virtually
like
every
lime
color
green.
rainbow. I've seen some things that are just
Okay.
impossible to describe. Yeah. Question? Why what? Why is a supernova called that? Because it's bigger, much bigger than a nova.
It's more super than a nova.
Any other questions?
That's great.
Okay, I'll be doing a book signing up here. I don't know if the book got around or how far it got.
Halfway through.
I'll be doing that in a few minutes. Thanks a lot for coming and having me. Appreciate it.